Hi everyone! Have you ever felt like your parents just don't get what you are going through? Like you're sharing something that feels super important to you, and instead of understanding, they hit you with something like, oh, your problems are nothing compared to what we went through back in our days. And then they go on about how life was so much harder without modern technology and how lucky we are to have it all easy. I don't know about you, but I've heard this so many times. And honestly, it can be very frustrating. It makes me feel like my challenges aren't valid just because I'm growing up in a different time. But let's pause for a second and really think about this. Is it fair to compare problems across generation? I don't think so. And here's why. Every generation has its own set of challenges. Sure, technology has made some things easier for us. We can Google anything in a second and stay connected with friends miles away, or even work and study from home. But this same technology also brings pressures that didn't exist before. Social media make us feel like we're constantly being watched, judged, and compared. Competition for jobs and education is fierce than ever, and mental health struggles are rising. So, while our parents had their struggles, ours are just different. Not easier, not harder, just different. Now, this generation gap isn't just about our problems, it's about values, lifestyles, and ways of thinking. Our parents grew up in a world where certain traditions and norms were deeply rooted. Meanwhile, we are navigating a world that's evolving faster than ever, culturally, socially, and technologically. It's no wonder we don't always see eye to eye. But here's the thing, instead of letting this divide us, we can actually use it as an opportunity to learn from each other. And this is where family education comes in. No, I'm not talking about sitting in a classroom with your parents, though that would be funny. I'm talking about the kind of education that happens through the everyday conversation, through being open, and through truly listening to each other. Let's break it down. Why does this gap exist in the first place? One big reason is communication, or the lack of it. Think about it. How often do we actually sit down with our parents and have a real, honest conversation? Sometimes we're too busy scrolling through our phones and caught up in our own lives. And sometimes our parents are too set in their ways to see things from our perspective. Another reason is that both sides tend to assume that they are right. We, as the younger generation, might think they are too old fashioned, they will never understand. Meanwhile, in our parents might think, kids these days are too sensitive and spoiled. This kind of mindset creates walls instead of bridges. So, what can we do about it? First, we need to start with open conversation. Instead of agreeing, try to explain your perspective calmly and clearly. For example, if your parents say something like, you don't know what real work is, take a moment to share what you're going through. Say something like, I get things were different in your time, but I'm facing challenges that are unique to my generation. Can I share how I'm feeling? second, practice empathy. And this goes both ways. We need to understand that our parents grew up in a time when life was generally tough in ways we might not fully grasp. At the same time, they need to understand that the world we live in now comes with its own pressure. Empathy doesn't mean agreeing with everything. It just means trying to see where the other person is coming from. Third, avoid making it a competition. It's not about whose struggles are bigger or more important. Instead, it's about acknowledging that both sides have faced and continue to face real challenges. Another tip is to educate each other. For us, that might mean helping our parents to understand things like social media, mental health awareness, or how competitive the modern world is. And for them, it might mean sharing stories about how they overcome difficulties in their time. There's so much we can learn from each other if we're willing to share. Lastly, and maybe most importantly, we need to keep the conversation going. Bridging a generation gap doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. It takes passion, effort, and consistency. So, why does all this matter? Because family is the foundation of who we are. Yes, we'll have disagreement. Yes, there will be times when it feels like we're speaking different languages. But at the end of the day, the stronger our relationships are with our families, the better equipped we will be faced to the world. Let's make an effort to bridge the gap, not by trying to prove who's right or wrong, but by trying to understand and support each other. Because no matter how different our experiences are, one thing remains the same. We all want to feel heard, valued, and loved. That's all from me. I'm Rahma Arifatuzzahra. Thank you very much.